the house wants more integration. We say, on this side of the house, they get less integration. I will deepen in my speech why so. First, I will talk about the right of the state to choose the place of living and why this is wrong and will be recognized as wrong also by the immigrants, I think. Secondly, I will talk about the cultural backlash we are inciting. And thirdly, I'll talk about the necessity of mediation instead of a culture clash by just transplanting ghettos in parks. So, first of all, a little bit to Michael's speech. You said we need to learn a language. And if I'm in a German-speaking surroundings, because the majority of my district will be German-speaking, or whatever national language they're speaking, I will learn it. We say, if a Muslim woman is staying at home because she thinks it's morally wrong to interact with this society, she will not learn German. There might be as many Germans living around her as possible. She won't. Secondly, you say, we don't see educated women. I invite you to come with me to Newcomb, the Turkish district in Berlin, to see lawyers, women lawyers practicing right across the street. I will invite you to come to the public offices, seeing Turkish women working there. I invite you even to come over Saxony, to the ministry, to see the social minister coming from Turkey working there. So there are possibilities. There are women shown on TV, on public ads, in the public, visible for everybody. You also said, well, how will she become a manager, this cleaning lady? If she has ambition, she can, because the German state or any other Western liberal democracy enables her to do so. She gets the possibility because she has at least to attend state school, and teachers there will help her because teachers are already educated to look out for migrants and help them overcome the difficulties they might encounter, for example, at home. So, let me come to my first point, state intervention. We say the state can only force measures that are minimal necessary to keep society working, for example, taxes. But can we interfere just for beneficial things? We think we need to give language courses to immigrants because they're necessary for integration. But we think you can still integrate yourself if you live in Newcomb, if you want to do so. And this is the problem. We don't make a quota on students because we have too many doctors, so you need to study English now. We don't make a quota of rich people because we think some rich people could very well do in Newcomb, getting connected to reality and everything and benefit society thereby. No. We say what you're doing with the quota is even worse, because what happens if a Turkish or whatever immigrant family wants to move to a place and the quota is full? So either they have to move to a worse place, or they have to move out of town because they can't afford any other housing. What does it stand for a message? What does it stand for a message if your neighbors hate you, but you have to stay there and endure for the sake of integration? We think this is wrong to those people. British have a very nice saying, my home is my castle. We think it's a very important part of the private sphere. We have the integrity of our home as a basic right, no thank you. And what we're doing now is we are breaching this. Second government said migrants dehumanize non-migrants. I think with this motion, they do lead migrants to dehumanize non-migrants even more because they intervene that greatly in their private sphere. Your question?
We never said we were going to kick people out of their houses, but we think that by doing this, we give an incentive to local governments to make sure there is housing in all those other neighborhoods, because otherwise they can't house these people.
Yeah, I get you. Even if you don't kick people out of their house, if someone wants to move to his sick mother, for example, and he can't because the quota is fulfilled, then he can't afford housing in any of the connecting districts. He might have to move out of Berlin to be away from his sick mother. And this will lead to culture backlash. We think culture is a very important part for everybody. And it has also been a very important part for immigrants because it gives stability to the life. And what happens if you go to a foreign country? I've been to a foreign country once, twice as an exchange student. And I can tell you, it's quite stressed, especially as you don't know the language. So, everything that you regarded as given standard to values, whatever, has totally changed. Now, what do you need? You need a culture and a tradition to give you structure in your life and in your day. What do you also need? You need areas to shop in. You need areas for your religious service. What you are forcing people to do is traveling miles to death. Traveling miles to get a little bit feeling at home, to celebrate their culture. What you give them is a message, hey, you have to move because we disapprove of you. The state makes here a judgment on the value, and people feel rejected right away. What start is this for integration? I tell you, it's a worse start than we have right now. What are the consequences? For example, a faithful Muslim will shield his family even more because he's afraid of his surrounding, because the neighborhood control has lost its effectivity. So, he will be afraid of the moral value of his daughter, and there comes a third party harm second government claims is already existing. No, we think here's a third party harm in having even less integration out of more fear of the surroundings. And that is why we need here mediation instead of a culture clash. We think, no, thank you. What do you need as a functional member of society? It doesn't only depend on the knowledge of the national language. It doesn't only depend on integration. It depends on being able to manage your day-to-day life. What do you need to manage your day-to-day life? First, you need food. So you need to be able to go to your shops, to be able to trust those shopkeepers, to maybe find the food that is comfort food, self food. For some people that may be chocolate, for other people it may be falafel, for the next it may be doner or whatever. We think people have a right to this. What you also say is, for example, state offices. You need to be able to register. You need what third proposition you said. You need to know your institutions, you need to know the mechanisms. So who's gonna explain to you this if you haven't even mastered the first language course? Probably your family is, your friends are. And this is why people master this, because they move to someone who they know, who helps them. How will they help if they have to travel 2 hours through Berlin because you weren't allowed to live next to each other? If, for example, some old woman needs help because she was too old to learn German or whatever language, and now she needs help from her children. But they have to travel to help her every day because they were forced to live apart. What also happens to children in schools? There are studies showing that especially traditional parents have much more trust in teachers coming from the same culture, being more emancipated probably, but coming from the same culture nonetheless. Understanding problems that arise from daughters not being allowed to participate in swimming, for example, they can mediate. They understand the problems, they can talk to the people because they know, parents because they know where they come from. You also have amenities, for example, like translators, Turkish-speaking lawyers right next to your office. Also maybe Turkish-speaking people in those offices. All this helps you to make a day-to-day life easier, to integrate in your new country, to adapt to the new situation you're in. What this proposition is making is giving immigrants right away a bad start because they're telling them where to go, which people to associate with, and what values to live. We think this is not making integration any better. This is asking migrants to outwardly reject integration, and therefore I'm proudly standing in opposition. Thank you.